Welcome to the Rose Library. Whether you're new to growing roses, new to gardening, or trying to improve upon your journey, you've come to the right place. Right now I'm in the preservation garden here at Heirloom where rose garden mastery is on display. At Heirloom we propagate and grow thousands of roses each year, delivering healthy, hardy, own root roses to gardens across the United States and Canada. With more than 50 years of rose growing experience, we've learned what it takes to make roses thrive in all zones, and we're here to help you succeed. We wanted to pull together a collection of videos that would help you be the most successful rose grower. In this series, we're going to learn a lot about deadheading, watering, fertilizing, everything you need to know to take care of your plants. There are chapter markers in the description below, along with helpful links. So skip around and find what's important to you, or watch straight through and become an heirloom expert. Let's start with an explanation of why we only grow own root roses. You spent time and effort caring for your roses, but they just won't thrive. Maybe they struggled through winter, sent up weak growth, or worse, they never bounced back. The problem? Not all roses are grown the same. Grafted roses are plants that depend on human intervention. Grafting involves taking the roots of one plant and forcing your preferred rose to attach to the top, making two different plants to essentially grow as one. Over time, they can weaken at the grafting point, making them more susceptible to disease and winter damage. And worse, grafted plants constantly try to revert back to their rootstock, producing suckers you'll have to keep pruning over and over again to keep your plant true to variety. If you've ever seen a rose bush with two completely different colored flowers on it, it's grafted, and it's being taken over by its rootstock. So why do growers produce grafted roses? Two reasons. First, it's cheaper and faster to get them to customers. Secondly, in really cold zones, rootstock like Dr. Huey can root faster before the cold weather comes. But those roses will need a lot of protection and care to not revert back. Bare root roses are a bit better than grafted roses. These plants are dug out of the fields where they've been growing, their roots are cut back, and they're shipped in a dormant state. This makes them vulnerable during transit, and they can only be planted at a specific time of the year while the plant is still in dormancy. Plus, without an established root system, bare root roses take longer to settle in and bloom. Bare root roses can be grafted or own roots, so it's important to read all the details when purchasing your bare root rose to know truly what you're actually getting. But what if there was a better way? There is. Our own root roses are grown in the pots they were born in. We grow our roses the way nature intended, without grafting, without compromise. Hand propagated from cuttings, each of our own root roses develops their own strong natural root system. No graft unions, no weak points. Instead of pushing up unwanted suckers, they produce healthy, vigorous canes called basal breaks that make for a fuller, more robust plant. We only grow own root roses because they're stronger, longer living, and more resilient than grafted or bare root varieties. You can plant own root roses anytime and get blooms even within the first year of growth. So say goodbye to the hassle and hello to a rose that grows with nature, not against it. So let's grow roses the way nature intended, on their own roots.
Hi, I'm Ben with Heirloom Roses. I'm going to walk through the steps of planting your rose in the ground and helping it get off to a great start. So your rose is going to arrive looking like this. There's going to be some new growth on it, but most of the growth and foliage will be defoliated. It means that we're going to pull that off. We do that intentionally, and what that does is it helps that rose not wilt. It helps it retain its water and just makes it more rigorous as it goes into the box and sits in a truck for 5 days. So once you pull your rose out of the box, you're gonna take your pruners and cut this fastener here at the bottom and go ahead and take the plastic all the way off the pot. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is give this rose a really good drink of water, meaning that you're gonna water it from the top all the way through till water's coming out the bottom. That will help your rose get kind of situated and ready to be planted into the ground, off to a good start. Okay, so the first thing with planting your rose, after it's taken out of the packaging, been watered and all ready to go, is making sure you have the right location. We're looking for a location that has well-drained soil, and it's really important for your rose to get 6 hours of continuous daylight during the day. Your rose needs that to grow and thrive and put off great blooms. If you have it in too shady of a location, your rose won't grow as strong, it will get long and lanky, and it's gonna really struggle. It really needs that daylight to put off healthy growth and bloom. So we're in a location here in the garden with a great sunlight. It's the south is this way, it's gonna get really good exposure, and we've got really well-drained soil. You'll see in a minute here as I start digging that this is really good soil. My yard, I'm really blessed to have really good soil in our yard, and we've amended these beds for years. Now I know that some of you are dealing with clay and other bad soil. And we'll have another detailed video on how to deal with that. But in short, you want to make sure you really amend that type of soil well with lots of organic material. We'll do some of that here today and then go into that in more detail in a later video. But in short, big hole, lots of organic material that will help break down that clay and make sure that the roots of this rose can really grow and thrive and drain well. So another important aspect is 6 hours of daylight, but also you want to make sure that you've got room for that rose to grow. So we say at least 3 to 4 feet from other plants and with good space around. Now there's a lot of space here, but in your yard or garden there might be other companion plants around and things, but you just want to make sure that that little plant that you're planting in the ground, that rose, is going to get bigger. And so just anticipate that and make sure you have room for growth. So I'm going to start here. I've got a good layer of bark dust and mulch on the ground. I'm just going to peel that back because it's going to go back in place after I get the rose planted. So we're just going to, and I know as I do this, some of you are looking at that going, wow, I wish I had soil like that. And I understand that not everyone does. So we'll talk a little bit about how to get your soil to this type of condition over time. Okay, I'm starting to get down to the soil here. I have about kind of 3 inches of mulch on top, which is what I really like to keep on top of my beds. I have an area here that's about 3 feet in diameter. That's about how big I want to work with because I'm going to have the hole be about 2 feet wide and about 2 feet deep. That's a good rule of thumb is 2 shovel widths wide and about 1.5 shovel widths deep. That's a good start. Now, if you're in clay soil, I hate to say this, you might want to make a bigger hole and amend more soil. It will make a big difference for your rose and the way that those roots have room to grow, and the amending will break down the clay. So we'll go ahead and start digging this hole out and getting ready to plant. As you can see, my hole's about 2 shovel widths wide and about 1.5 deep. So approximately 2 feet by 2 feet. In clay soil, you might want to make that a little bit bigger, even though it means more digging in hard soil, but you'll be happy you did. And this will give the rose here plenty of room to grow and for those new roots to spread out and do well. So we'll go ahead and start the process of amending the soil. So we're going to add back in good organic material and good topsoil to really give a good mix for that rose to start off and grow in. So we're going to use 1 part peat moss, 1 part either living soil, or if you have good soil, we'll put that back in. Then we're going to use a cup of bone meal, and then we're also going to use some worm castings. So the worm castings are a organic material that really help feed the mycorrhiza in the soil and get that soil health really growing and thriving. That will also help you break down clay soil. So we'll go ahead and start the process. I'm going to go ahead and put the peat moss in first, and we're going to mix everything right in the hole before we plant the rose. Okay, so I've got just the right amount of peat moss here. We're just going to go ahead and pour this right into the bottom of the hole. And we'll start mixing in the other things. It's a good time though for me to remind you that if you're going to put in other soil, particularly bagged potting soil, you want to make sure that that soil doesn't have granular fertilizer in it. Read right on the package, and if it says it has granular fertilizer in it, you don't want to use it. That granular fertilizer gives off too much nitrogen. It can burn the roots and it will void the warranty of the plant. So really watch that carefully. No granular fertilizer. We'll talk about fertilizer at the end here, and we'll use liquid fertilizer only for the first year of your plant. So I'm going to add in worm castings. We're just going to pour these right in here on top. I'm going to use about half a bag per hole. That's plenty, and it doesn't look like much, but these worm castings are really strong and good. The soil loves them. They won't burn the roots, and it's going to just really make a great environment for your plant to grow in. So worm castings, and then we're going to add in about a cup of bone meal. Now, I say about a cup. We're not going to actually measure it. We're just going to be general and put in about a cup of bone meal. So I'm going to go ahead and mix these parts together so that that bone meal is really well mixed in and the worm castings are mixed in. And then we're going to go ahead and start mixing in the soil in on top of that. And we're just going to really break that up and get a nice, good mix going on here. I'm also going to get some of this bark dust that we used before. You can use mint compost as well. I'm going to mix that in too. All of that organic matter is really good for the roots. As you can see, we're just going to keep mixing it right up here. Breaking it up with the soil there. And go ahead and dig clear down to the bottom there. Pull it from back up and really mix that well. Okay, as you can see, we have a good soil mix here. We've got our peat moss, compost, soil, bone meal, worm castings, all mixed in really well there, and it's a good mix. It's still a little clumpy, that's okay. It's gonna break down over time, and it's just a great place for that rose to start out. Now, we've amended the soil. Hopefully you're watching this video in advance of getting your roses. And I want to say, if you've got quite a few roses on order, you may want to start and go ahead and amend the soil in the areas you're going to plant your plant, and then wait for your roses to arrive. This can sit here, it breaks the project up into multiple bite-sized chunks. When that rose arrives, you can just plant it right into your amended soil. It's a good way to go. So we're going to go ahead and put our rose into the ground. So literally, I'm just going to make a space here with my hands. You can use a garden trowel if you want, but I like getting my hands into the soil. If you can't dig in the soil with your hands like this, then it's not amended enough. Make sure it's good and fluffy and really can just be scooped out with your hands. And we'll take our rose, pop it off the container, we'll save that. We'll put that back in. And with our roses, they're young roots. They're going to be rooted all the way to the outside of the pot. You don't need to break up the root ball. You can just go directly into the ground. So we're going to go ahead and place that into the ground. And the bamboo, it can either stay in the rose, or if you want to protect it from, kids and whatever might be flying around your yard, pets, but we can also just set it off to the side. It's just part of the packaging material. So then we're going to go ahead and get the soil put back in around the rose and just push it in. Now, as you can see here, I've got a little divot in the soil around here. Some of that's going to help hold in water, and then I'm also going to come back in and put in the bark dust and compost around there to fill up. And with own root roses, go ahead and plant them deep. There's no graft union on this that you have to worry about. So if you plant these deep, it's just going to promote more rooting and more growth and make sure your rose is exceptionally healthy. So, all ready to go with that. The cardboard in your packaging, of course, it's all biodegradable, and it makes for a really good ground cover around the rose underneath your mulch. The worms in the soil and other microorganisms are going to come up and eat that cardboard to pieces. It's going to provide a great weed barrier, and it's also going to help keep moisture in the soil. So reuse your box. So we're going to go ahead and just disassemble our box here, pull it apart. And I'm only going to use this portion right here. So we'll just cut like that. We'll use that somewhere else. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this box straight down the center. And we're going to go ahead and cut 2 triangles out. Lay those down. Cut another triangle out right here. And we're just going to go ahead and piece these right in like this. Now, I always like to leave a little space right around the rose because we're going to want to water it in with some fertilizer, and that gives a way for that liquid fertilizer to get down there. But that will create a great weed barrier and a great way to help your rose get off to a great start. Okay, cardboard is in place. We're just going to go ahead and cover this all back over with our mulch and ground cover. The mint compost is going in right now. That's a great way to really help that rose do well against bugs and keep the moisture in the soil. So we'll just cover this right in. And as you can see, I have a pretty thick layer of mulch here. I really think it's important to mulch in your rows as well. 3 to 4 inches, kind of a minimum. Keeps that moisture in the soil and really helps the overall health of your plant. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and water in our rows with liquid fish fertilizer. We have some new growth already showing on our rows, so it's a good time to go ahead and water. And we'll just go ahead and use as directed right into the watering can and water your rows in. And as another reminder, you might be tempted to fertilize this rose the first year with granular fertilizer, but we don't. It's liquid fertilizer only for that first year. That's super stinky, but it works really well. And so it's really great for outdoor plants, and it actually is really good for indoor plants as long as your wife is not home and she doesn't know you're doing it. Okay, so for continued care of your new rose, we're gonna wanna do 1 to 2 inches of water 2 to 3 times a week. And of course that varies by climate. If you're in a really hot area, your rose is gonna need more water than that. And in Oregon, in a rainy spring, we won't water quite so much. It's getting enough from the rain. And then fish fertilizer about once a month. That'll just help really keep that rose healthy and growing strong. I'm out here in our beautiful stock field surrounded by lots of roses. This one in particular is Fragrant Cloud. And I'm gonna talk to you about watering and the best ways to water your roses and some tips and tricks that should make it easy for you to really have your plant be healthy and get exactly what it needs for the growing season. So to start off, we say in general, roses need 2 to 3 inches of water per week. But I don't know if you're like me, I don't really think in terms of inches. That's kind of hard to tell. So I would say in general terms, it's 4 to 5 gallons per week to keep your rose really hydrated and doing well. And in hot weather, you can give it more than that. It's gonna be hard to overwater your rose in really hot weather, but what you don't want is soggy feet. So in the springtime, when the ground's wet, don't be watering your roses. You want your roses to really drain and do well. They don't like to have their roots sitting in water. So what we say is to water at the base of the plant. And that would be anywhere around 12 inches around is where the root zone is. And you want to water right in that. So one problem can be is if you're just blasting it with a hose, is a lot of that water will actually go off and not actually get down to the roots. So it's best when watering to water slowly. And so I have a watering can to demonstrate this right now. And we know that there's lots of different ways to do this, but just watering at the base slowly so that that water absorbs in and doesn't run off. And that's really going to be the best way to get the water down to the roots, let the plant take it up, and to get that fully soaked in and hydrated. So another reason to water at the base of the plant is that you don't want water covering your plant, especially when it's going to sit there for a long period of time. It can actually help disease grow and cause problems. Now that being said, we do say once a week, it's really good to kind of spray your plant off. What that does is it's going to wash off the dust. It will also wash off bugs. So if you ever have an aphid infestation or spider mites, if you hit your rose with water, that's really a quick and easy way to get those bugs off of there, and the blasting of them will actually kill aphids. One of the best ways to get rid of aphids is just spray it down. So that's just one trick. So I want to talk to you about another way to water. This watering can is kind of inefficient. It works well when you're planting something new, but I want to show you a different way that maybe you haven't really thought of. Okay, so this is a 7-gallon bucket. It's nothing fancy. It's just an Ace Hardware bucket, 7 gallons. But it's something my wife and I have used for a long time in our gardens. And we got the idea from someone in the orchard business where they were starting new trees. And it's a 7-gallon bucket, and we put an 1/8-inch hole at the bottom. And my kids have called these pea buckets. And well, that's self-explanatory. So what we do is we set this right here at the bottom of the plant, and that 7 gallons will slowly leach in just like a drip system and water this plant. So you know that you're getting 5 gallons of water right on this plant, right in the right spot, and it's controlled over a period of time. It's really an effective way to water things in if you don't have a drip system or an irrigation system in your yard. So one of the benefits here is that this water is coming in slowly
and concentrated in a single area, that's going to allow that water to go really deep. What that's going to do is actually train your rose to push its roots deep and really become more established. So water deeply, slowly over time, and it's conditioning your roots to grow deep and become solid and really become a healthy plant. The best time to water plants in general is in the morning. In the cool of the morning, the plant is going to take up the water much better. You're going to get less evaporation, and then your plant has got everything it needs to go through the hot summer day. I always tell people, water in your pajamas. It's a great time to be out in your yard, have your cup of coffee, watering your plants early in the morning. That's the optimal time of day. A good rule of thumb to know whether you need to water your plant is the finger test. If you push on the soil here at the bottom and you can't get your finger in there and it's not soft where you can get down to a couple inches, that's pretty dry. It needs some water, and that's a good time to water. Another time to water is if your plant starts to droop. That's another optimal time that your plant is saying, hey, we need water, and water it then. Another way to tell how often you should water is once you've watered and your plants look perked up, watch your rose, and once it starts to droop, then it needs water. And then you can tell how many days apart that is, and that should be your cadence for watering. Just a good rule of thumb. That will shorten up as the weather gets a lot warmer. It's going to dissipate more water and evaporate. So you're going to want to shorten that up. Just keep an eye on your plant. It will tell you when it needs more water. So the final thought I have about watering is the use of compost. Compost is really going to help trap moisture in the soil. It's going to protect the roots from drying out and make it much more of a regulated process where it's going to have a better way for that to retain water. So we typically say mulch in your roses pretty heavy, 2 to 3 inches around each plant is really optimal. We really like mint compost. Mint compost is a great mulch. It also has a lot of nitrogen in it, so when you water through it, it actually helps fertilize your plant. And the natural oils in mint compost deter bugs. So it's a great all-around solution. Now, out here in our stock fields, we don't have compost on these plants right here. We have a good layer and we have a different drip system. So it doesn't pertain to this plant, but in your yard, it's super important.
I'd like to talk with you a little bit about fertilizers and the different options you have for your roses. We're a big proponent and actually insist on using liquid fertilizer on your new roses for the first year. And we do that because granular fertilizer can be too hot and will actually burn the young roots of your plants. So a liquid fertilizer like this fish fertilizer, this is our Founder's Fish Fertilizer. You work it in with some water, and so it's a concentrate, and it's really difficult to over-fertilize with a liquid fertilizer. That would also include granular fertilizer that's meant to be dissolved in water. We would consider that liquid fertilizer as well. So any of those are a good option. We really like the Founder's Fish Fertilizer because it has all of the mycorrhiza and bacteria in there that really work in concert with the soil and the mycorrhiza in the soil to really feed your plant and create a great healthy environment. We have that in 2 different forms. We have that in this 1 quart version or a 1 gallon version. It really just depends on how much fertilizing you're going to do and how many roses you have. Now, so liquid fertilizer for the first year, but then anytime you're growing roses in pots or containers like this, liquid fertilizer only. Always water in liquid fertilizer into pots. It will actually drain out over time and your soil won't get toxic. With a granular fertilizer, it's really easy to over-fertilize your plant. So we do sell a granular fertilizer, and it's very effective for older plants. So after that first year, going into that second growing season, we would recommend granular fertilizer on your roses that are planted in the ground. So there's 3 numbers on fertilizer. It's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. And a good way to know what those numbers are for is to think about the first number is nitrogen, so that's up, meaning that's how it makes your plant grow upwards. The second one is phosphorus, and that makes your plant grow down, so up, down, and the third one is all around, potash, for its all around health. So 15, 10, 10, and that will help your plant get good healthy growth upwards as well as everything it needs to grow and be healthy with roots and the rest of the body of the plant. Another unique thing about our Boost and Bloom is it has a micronutrient package in it. So it's got a lot of micro elements in here that the plant needs for overall health, and it's better for your rose to have those as it produces blooms and just gives a good healthy environment. But again, this is not to be used in a container like this
only for roses in their second year planted in the ground. With both liquid fertilizer and granular fertilizer, we recommend fertilizing on a regular basis every 4 weeks. I think it's best to get on a schedule and fertilize at the first of the month or whatever day that might be during the month. It helps you remember. Your roses will grow much healthier and be off to a great start fertilizing on a consistent schedule. For spring fertilizing, we tell people to begin fertilizing right during their last frost period. So right before things start to warm up and move into spring. That way the fertilizer is in the ground, the plant will start taking it up as soon as it starts growing, and you're off to a great start. The opposite side of that is in the fall, we tell people to stop fertilizing about 4 weeks before their first frost date. So it's good to back off on the fertilizer and let your plant start to wind down and go dormant. If it's growing clear into the frost period, you can get some dieback on your rose, and also it's really good to let your rose go dormant. And by stopping the fertilizer about a month before that, it really lets things calm down and really move into a winter dormancy time. So that's a quick overview of fertilizers. I hope that's helpful. Hi, today we're going to demonstrate the simple steps of pruning roses. We hear from many of our customers that pruning roses can be an intimidating task. The main concern is that they're going to make a mistake and ruin their rose forever, or they just don't know where to start in the process. So we're going to walk through the 5 simple steps of pruning a rose and alleviate some of those concerns. We've broken the process of pruning roses down into 5 simple steps using the acronym PRUNE, P-R-U-N-E. The first part is P, prepare the plant. We're going to go through this rose and cut all the canes down at about 30 inches. That's about waist height. It's important to know that with these own root roses, you can actually cut this rose off all the way at the ground, and it will grow back with blooms that same year. It's virtually impossible to kill that rose. So the reason we cut all of these canes back to 30 inches is so that we can get a good understanding of what's going on with the plant. It just makes it more simple to see the structure, and literally, we don't get poked in the eye. So the next step is R, remove all diseased and dead canes and canes that are crossing. We'll go ahead and just take our pruners and work through this plant and cut back canes that are crossing over each other. This cane right here is crossing this cane, and if left alone, it's going to develop a weak spot in the plant where they rub together. So we'll go ahead and take that cane out. Here's another cane that's crossing right here in the middle. We're going to go ahead and take that cane out as well. Now sometimes I like to use my long-handled pruners to get inside the plant. It just makes it less of ability to get scratched and poked. Now there's a large cane right here in the center, and this will make a lot of people very nervous. They're concerned that they're going to make a mistake and kill this rose, and what's it going to look like? But this cane has got some problems, and it's rubbing other canes, and it's got some disease here on the back side from a scar, and so we're just going to go ahead and take that right out. It's okay, you're not going to hurt this rose. So as you can see, this is some disease coming up the cane here. If left alone, it's going to cause a problem, so we just go ahead and cut that right out. As you can see on this cane at the base, there's a big crack developing, and it's going to be a problem. You're going to have disease get in there, and it really needs to be removed. So we're going to go ahead and cut that off right here at the base. As you can see, there's a lot going on in the front of this rose bush. There's a number of canes that are crossing, and it's somewhat of a jumbled up mess. That leads us to our next point of U, understand your plant. What type of rose do you have, and what do you want it to look like this summer? Do you have a hybrid tea? Do you want long-stemmed cut flowers, or do you have more of a shrub and you want a nice mound of many blooms throughout the summer? We'll take that into consideration here as we cut. As you can see, we've removed a lot of canes out of this rose bush, and it's starting to thin out, and you might be considering stopping at this point. But the important thing is you need to keep going. There's still room to be pruned in this bush. We're going to actually take this down to about 6 canes.
What that will do is promote suckering from the roots here. And on an own root rose, that's great. It's the same rose coming up and rejuvenating itself, and it'll be a very healthy plant this summer. So let's work on. So there's a cluster of canes here. We can't have all of these going in the same direction. This is a healthy cane, this is a healthy cane, but they're gonna cross. So I'm gonna take out these 2 canes actually and leave this one right here. This is a healthy cane, another cluster here of 3. I'm gonna take out the center one, and it's gonna give me a nice open effect along the outside of the rose. But again, it's all personal preference at this point. You need to decide how you want this rose to look. And just envision these canes growing out into a large full bush. Here on the inside, we've got some spindly canes. These are smaller than a pencil and they're not going to amount to much, and we'll just go ahead and take those off. And here I have 2 fighting each other. This one's healthier, this one's just a little older, so it's going to go. Now, as we work against our backdrop here, it reminds me of a good point. Many times people will have roses planted in a bed near their house, and you want to keep the canes off of your siding so that you don't have problems with your siding or with the rose. So when pruning these, you want to keep them going more upright and less backwards. It's a good time to clean them up and give a little space next to your house. I have 2 nice sized canes right here, but as you can see right here, they're beginning to rub into each other, so one of them's got to go. We can't leave them both. Now this one is a little more straight and to the back and in the direction I like, so we're going to leave that one, and the other one we're going to take out. This cane is coming out away from the base with this cane in the center, and then again they're going in the same direction, and I'm going to take that one off. What I like about that is the base of the plant is widening out and opening up, and it's going to give us a good structure for this shrub rose. This is a small cane kind of going along the ground. I don't like how that's going to end up. I'm going to take that out as well. Okay, now I'd originally thought I would end up with 6 canes, but as I sit here and look at this, we have a really nice shape that I like. Things are open and airy, and there's good structure to the rose. And so I'm going to stop here. We're going to go ahead and take these canes back down to a uniform height of about 16 inches. That's a pretty hard prune, and if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can leave them at a height of 24 inches. Okay, so as we're taking these canes back down to 16 inches or 24 inches, whatever you desire, we're going to make a cut right above a bud. This red swelling spot right here is a bud, and we're going to make a cut about 1/4 of an inch right above that. Now, it doesn't matter if that's outward facing or whatever direction it is, that bud's going to go straight up. It's a good place to make a cut. We're going to do that on all the canes now. Okay, here we are. We're all cut down to height, thinned out, and that leads us to our next step. N, nothing left behind. We're going to clean up all the needles and debris and dead canes and leaves to get all the fungus and spores out away from this plant, and it's going to give you a much healthier start to your spring blooms. I'll go ahead and take a rake, and I'm going to rake out a lot of these leaves and turn the compost over. It's important when doing this to be careful around the base of the plant. There is some buds on the base of these canes that will generate into new canes, and we don't want to damage those. So we'll be a little bit careful as we work inside the plant and ultimately get this all cleaned up. Okay, all of our canes are cut back, the base is completely cleaned up, and that leads us to our final point, E. Enjoy your rose. The most important thing you can do for a rose and to have great blooms throughout the summer is to prune your roses in the early spring and get them off to a healthy start. This rose is all ready to go and you're going to have great blooms all summer long.
If your roses are starting to look a little bit tired, or if you're wondering how to keep them blooming beautifully all season long, you're in the right place. I'm Alina with Heirloom Roses, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to deadhead your roses step by step, so you can enjoy more blooms and a healthier, happier plant. Today we're going to deadhead oranges and lemons. As you can see, these blooms are all already spent, so we're going to cut off these dead blooms. The most important thing when you're deadheading roses is to look for a node somewhere beneath the canopy. This is a good spot. As you can see, there is a growing point, a new bud coming out of this node. You don't want to cut beneath here. You want to cut right above this new growing point. So that's what we're going to do right now. As you can see, I cut the spent bloom at a 45-degree angle. There's a reason for that. If you cut the bloom straight, the water will settle at the top, creating possibilities for disease and other infections. If you cut it at an angle, the water will easily run off. Sometimes you will have uneven branches like this. You kind of have to make a decision with these. I like to take these down really low, but sometimes you could just go a little bit beneath to keep that rounded shape going so you don't have an uneven looking plant. But as you can see, there's also some blooms still on here. So what I might do is just remove the dead ones and give the other ones a chance to flesh out. I would say that 70% of these are already done and tired. I don't think it's worth keeping this branch just for a few flowers, so I, for one, would cut it. Your roses will flush out with new blooms again if it's early enough in the summer, and so taking them back to a smaller shape is not that big of a risk. Sometimes the plant will have lower branches that also have spent blooms on it. Now, my personal choice is I like to take these back as far as possible because I don't like branches poking out of the bottom like that. I like to keep my rose growing more upright. So these I will actually take as far back as I can. Again, my intention is not just taking the dead blooms off, but also maintaining a nice look to the plant. Now, this last part might seem a little bit counterintuitive because these buds have not even opened yet. However, I like to have a nice shape to my rose. And if I leave him, he's going to, in my opinion, he's going to look really awkward. So even though his blooms haven't opened yet, I'm going to cut him down, following the same standards as before. 45-degree angle, and lowering the canopy to where it matches the height of the other cuts you've made. And that's it. A little deadheading goes a long way in keeping your roses blooming strong and looking their best. If you found this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more rose care tips, or visit us at heirloomroses.com for expert guidance and premium own root roses.
I'm going to walk through the steps of transplanting a rose. Now, this rose is in a bed here that we're getting ready to clean out and redo and put other plants in here. This is one of my favorite roses, but it turns out it's in a spot that it doesn't really like. Actually, this rose needs a little bit more shade. So we're going to go through and dig it up, transplant it, and walk through all the steps. So the first step in transplanting a rose in the early spring, which is the optimal time to do that, is to go through the 5 steps of prune. That's another video. We'll link to that so that you can watch that first. And then that will tell you how to get this rose cleaned up. Now, this rose is, we knew we were gonna move it, so we've left it alone. And I'm gonna go through here and quickly prune it just to clean things up and make sure it's easier to work with. I know I'm doing this quickly. The prune video, we'll go through this in more detail. Okay, I did that really fast. But basically you want to start with a rose that's been pruned down so you have less area to work with and it's more manageable to handle. First thing we're going to do is go through with a really sharp shovel and dig around this rose. And we want to get as big of a root ball as possible and still be able to lift it. Anytime you transplant or plant like this, it's going to have some shock. It's not going to like it. It's going to be fussy.
but this is a healthy plant and it will do fine. So we'll take our shovel and work all the way around the plant, and I can feel myself cutting through some of the roots, and that's part of the reason we use a really sharp shovel. And then I'm going to get underneath and just start working it up. We want to keep as much of the soil as possible, but this is it's going to come out with kind of a clump around the base, most likely. I can tell here. There we go. Now, talked about this swimming pool. I like to use a swimming pool like this. It allows me to keep all of the dirt and soil contained, and then I can water in this rose and it's going to have less shock while I get my new location prepared. Let's move over there and we'll talk about planting it in the ground. Okay, so one of the things I neglected to say before we actually dug this rose out of the ground was, if you're planning to transplant a rose and you have some time beforehand, 1 or 2 weeks before, it's really good to water it with liquid fertilizer a couple times. What that's going to do is it's going to allow that rose to really build up energy and stored energy in its root systems and its canes to help it get past transplant shock. So in this time of the year, we're not going to do that in the early spring, and this rose is just coming out of dormancy. We're going to water it in after we get it transplanted, but it probably would have been best to give it a shot of liquid fertilizer a week ago, and it would probably do a little bit better, but I'm confident that we've got really mild climate right now and really good ground. It's going to do very well. So the next part of this transplanting is to do similar to planting a rose. You're going to dig a nice big hole. You're going to amend the soil with some mulch, possibly bone meal. Now, I happen to know that this area here has got really good soil in it. It's been mulched in for years, and I'm not going to put any bone meal in the hole, but if you've got some clay soil and you might need to amend that a little bit more to deal with the soil conditions in your area, you'll want to take care of that as well. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and dig the big hole and get this ready to go into the ground. Now, as I dig in this soil, I know that we're very blessed here in this part of Oregon, and particularly in my yard, I've been working at it a long time, to have really good, nice soil. It's a little clumpy right now because it's wet, but it's really good topsoil, and I don't have to do much amending. And I know, depending on where you're at in the United States, you're dealing with clay or other types of soil conditions that can be challenging, and you'll want to amend your soil accordingly to make sure your rose has got a healthy place to start growing roots and to get established. I always tell people 2 shovels wide and about 1.5 deep is really a good size hole for a rose, either for a 1-gallon pot or for this one. This one will fit in there as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of mint compost in the bottom of this hole. Mint compost is a good source of nitrogen. It's organic, and it's going to allow kind of some good soil conditions there for it to grow and establish well. Now, I'm not going to put very much of this in the bottom of the hole. You want to be very careful adding compost into soil conditions to not use too much. Sometimes if compost isn't broken down properly, it can rob nitrogen out of the soil. So if you're using too woody of a compost, it can actually rob and deplete from the soil. Mint compost is fully composted down and it has lots of nitrogen. It's actually good for the soil. And so, yeah, this rose should do well with a couple handfuls in the bottom of the hole. We'll go ahead and fill in around this. And we want to pack in the soil so that there's no air gaps and it's well planted. But not too much that it's going to stifle root growth. Now it's springtime here and this soil is pretty clumpy. So I'm going to break it up and just kind of work it in with my hands. Use my feet a little bit there, but I don't want to damage this plant. I don't want to damage the roots any more than they've already been cut, and just make sure we're taking good care. So now I'm going to go, I've got this rose all established in there and planted. It went in pretty easy. This is really easy soil to dig with, and the root ball wasn't that big. If it had a bigger root ball, I would have certainly saved as much of the root ball as I could and dug a bigger hole. But this will take off quickly. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just composting this in and top dressing this with mint compost. I really like the way this looks. Mint compost is high in nitrogen, and the remaining mint oil that's left in it is a good deterrent for bugs. And this is really going to help keep the water in the soil here, and really kind of help this rose get off to a great start. So the final step in this is to water this in with a good fish fertilizer. And as soon as I bring out the fish fertilizer, the cat shows up. Just happens. It's stinky stuff. So we'll water this in with liquid fertilizer. We recommend fish fertilizer. That's going to really help the mycorrhiza in the soil grow. The plant will love that, and it's a good, gentle fertilizer for these new roots. They've been pruned off. They're growing back, so they're considered new.
Thanks so much for learning with us. We hope you learned a lot so you can start or continue on your rose growing journey. For more information on the topics discussed in this video, click the links below to visit our Rose Library blog and sign up for our email list too. We send out guides and helpful reminders throughout the year to make sure that you're not only getting the best information when starting your garden, but to ensure that your garden will thrive for years and decades to come. Remember, growing roses doesn't have to be complicated. Just pick the right rose for the right zone, select the shipping date that works best for your garden, and get the nutrients that your plant needs throughout the year. That's it. Happy growing.